The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Rob Denninger, and I'm here with Jack DeGraw. And as always, we're going to talk Yankees baseball. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you today, Robert?
Not too bad. There's been some moves this offseason by the Yankees. They resigned Kiner-Falefa to a one-year, $6 million deal, and they brought back Anthony Rizzo on a 2-year deal. It'll be a total of $40 million over 2 years. But the big news is when's Judge going to resign, and will he resign?
Well, you know, you hear so many rumors, and really nobody knows. The thing I hope for, no matter what happens, the sooner the better.
Yeah. You know, I guess there's 6 people on Instagram that are close with Judge, all indicating that he'll be back with the Yankees. Now, they're not anyone official, but there are people that, you know, are friends with him saying that he'll be back in New York. So I'm hoping that he comes back, because you can't replace Aaron Judge. You just can't.
No, I mean, if they lose him, I mean, they're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to make some other moves.
Yeah, and I guess with the contract they initially offered him last year, what was it, $213 million or something like that? I guess he joked with Anthony Rizzo that he's like, that's all they think I'm worth. You know, so apparently he wanted a lot more money than that, and I think if the Yankees resign him, you'll see it'll be over $300 million.
Yeah, and I mean, instead of maybe like a 8-9 year contract, you know, give him that much money in 6 years or 7 years. And,
right.
You know, if they can sign him right away, you know, they can sell all those T-shirts and the hats and everything before Christmas. So they'll be making money already.
Yeah. I tell you, when I was watching the postseason, Bryce Harper, that guy, I mean, he's a performer. That guy, I wish, you know, years back when they got Stanton, Harper you could tell he wanted to come to New York. Every interview he gave, it was a hint that he wanted to come to New York. I would have loved to have Bryce Harper in the Yankee uniform. I wish we would have gotten him over Stanton. I mean, I like Stanton, but God, Bryce Harper in a Yankee uniform would have been great. Yeah,
I think at the time, you know, Harper wanted to be the highest paid player in baseball, and the Marlins just wanted to unload Stanton.
Yeah.
But Harper, you know, in right field, you know, left field to stadium, I mean, he'd be hitting a lot of home runs. Just saying the least, you know.
Yeah. I mean, the postseason, the guy. I mean, he's a big time. He is a big time player. You know, it would have been nice, but the Yankees. I mean, the Marlins, I think, are paying $10 million towards his contract for the last 3 or 4 years of his deal. So the Yankees, you know, basically got him at a discount.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's why they took on that. You know, they took on Stanton, and it's always a big if he can stay healthy. You know, is a terrific player, but he can't seem to stay on the field a lot.
Yeah. I mean, every year it's just a matter of time before his legs start going on him or something goes on him. You know, he can never. I think he's played one full season in his career. I think one, and that was early on with the Marlins.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys, they work out 12 months out of the year, and you know, they got trainers and the best of everything. And they get hurt. Yeah.
And another interesting piece of news was Hal Steinbrenner gave an interview where he said that Oswald, Peraza, and Volpe are the middle infield of the Yankees' future, and he'd like to see that future now. And he said that they will get their shot next season and in spring training. And he said it's up to Aaron Boone to decide whether or not they make the team. And when they asked about, well, what about Gleyber Torres? He said that's a question for the GM, Brian Cashman. And some of the rumors going around with the Yankees trade targets, you're hearing Gleyber Torres' name mentioned a lot in some of these trade targets.
Yeah, you were telling me. Well, I heard of one with the Mariners. You know, they were trying to get a relief pitcher. And what was the one you were telling me off air, Robert?
Yeah, Pablo Lopez of the Marlins. I guess that was one of the pitchers they were trying to acquire at the trade deadline, but they wanted Volpe, Peraza, and Torres. And so the Yankees are apparently going back to try to renegotiate. But any deal they do make with them would have Gleyber Torres involved in it.
Well, I mean, they if they trade Torres, they still have LeMahieu.
Yeah.
And they got all the young kids coming up. You know, the roadblock I see at this point is Donaldson.
Yeah. And also, I guess if you do re-sign Judge, you really couldn't afford to re-sign Gleyber Torres when he becomes a free agent.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things. If Judge don't sign, then, maybe you go after, a free agent. Or there was one rumor. Of course, there's rumors all over.
Yeah.
The Angels were Ohtani.
Yeah. That's
I don't know if you heard that.
No.
They were talking like Peraza, Cabrera, even Jason Dominguez, and so that's been flying around too.
Yeah, and Jason Dominguez is only 19, and he was in Double-A this last year. We might see him in another year or two. But he's still with the organization.
Down here in spring training, I think he's probably a couple years away yet, but he made some big strides this year.
Yeah. And also, going back to Aaron Judge, him and Thurman Munson are the only Yankees to ever win Rookie of the Year and an MVP in their careers.
Yeah,
I find that remarkable considering. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I think Munson was the Rookie of the Year in '69, and then he won the MVP, I believe, was it 1976?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Robert, is Cashman resigned as the GM?
Yeah, I think so because I think he signed another at least 1 year deal. But yeah, they announced that right away that Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone would be back this year.
Because I know when Cashman had his press conference, they were talking about, he didn't even have a contract yet.
Yeah. They announced that he'd be back. This year. So, yeah, I'm trying to bring up Volpe's stats.
Just let me rant a little bit, Robert. There was talk, getting rid of Cashman and getting rid of Boone. And, I mean, the thing is, the Yankees aren't going to do that because even though they don't win the series, they're still very successful. And you get rid of those guys, and you bring in another GM, and they're going to have, they're going to want to bring in their people. And, the Yankees might go downhill for 2 or 3 years, and they're $1 billion business. And, I mean, they're not going to sacrifice 2, 3, 4 seasons while they're rebuilding.
No, and they got an extensive analytic team that he's put together. I mean, to remove Cashman, the organization would take a huge step back in the beginning. And regardless, even though we haven't won a World Series since '09, we do win a lot of games during the year. We are, competing at least every year. It's just we haven't been able to get back to the World Series.
Well, one of the things George used to say, well, if we don't win the series, it's a bad year. And, one of the things, Robert, I'm just going to throw this stat out. From 1923 through 64, the Yankees were in the World Series 29 times.
Wow.
And like the last, it's amazing. I mean, it's incredible. The dominance, that was when the Yankees were really the Yankees.
Yeah.
1949 through 64, they were in the World Series 14 out of 16 years. The last 58 years, they've been in the series 11 times. I mean, that's still a tremendous accomplishment. But, you know, this thing, we got to win every year, the Yankees got to win every year, or, you know, it's a failure. It's just what I'm trying to say, they're still a tremendous franchise, but they're not what they used to be. And you'll never have that dominance again.
Oh, no, not in today's game, no. Yeah, I was looking at Anthony Volpe's stats, and AAA this year, he played only 22 games at AAA, and he batted .236. He had on base percentage of .313, and for the season combined with AAA and AA, he had 50 stolen bases. It was only caught 7 times.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the kid a couple times, and he was impressive.
Yeah,
and
he had 21 home runs, too, total, so he had a little pop to his bat.
Well, you know, it'll be interesting, Robert. In spring training, it's not that far off. I mean, they'll be down here in less than 90 days, and, you know, it'll be fun to watch these kids in spring training and see what happens. Yeah,
I'm curious. I know Jameson Tyon's a free agent. I don't know if the Yankees are planning on re-signing him. But if they don't, we'll need somebody to fill a spot. And I know there's a lot of talk and rumors out there about going after Justin Verlander. But I wouldn't want to. You know, he's getting up there in age. I know he had a great season last year, but he's up there in age, and he's not the greatest postseason pitcher. I think he finally won his first World Series game, and he's been in a number of World Series. And I would stay away from Justin Verlander.
No, I wouldn't get him at this point. I think his best deal was just to stay with the Astros. And, you know, the funny thing, Robert, we talked about this a couple months ago. How many times have you heard over the years that Verlander was 0-6 in the series?
Yeah. I never heard it. I wasn't aware to it until I looked it up this year when we were talking about it one time.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, like, you know, in the playoffs, he pitched pretty well, but in the World Series, you never heard he was 0-6.
No. Yeah, and he finally won his first game this year, and I think he only pitched 5 innings in it. I think it was only 5 innings he pitched.
Yeah, and I think he has the highest earned run average, you know, with a pitcher who's thrown over 30 innings in history.
Yeah. Wow. You know,
and another one, Robert, DeGrom.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's been rumors that he wants to go to Atlanta, you know, but anywhere he goes, he's going to fetch a nice contract for himself.
Well, you know, the big problem with him is, can he stay healthy?
Yeah, he's always hurt.
So that's going to hurt him, free agent.
Yeah, and we also Benintendi's a free agent too. I'd love to see the Yankees re-sign him.
Yeah, I mean, he's the type of guy, and you get guys like Bader. I mean, they keep the ball in play. They hit the ball all over. And I know one year, Benintendi, I think when he was with the Red Sox, he had a big season. And one of the reasons he didn't like Boston is because they changed his swing. They wanted him to go more for home runs, and I think him and the Red Sox were at odds, and that's why, you know, he went to free agency. But Benintendi is one of those guys who can just hit. You know, you got him, you got Bader, you got LeMahieu, and these are the guys you want in the lineup. They're just not all home runs.
No. And they're talking about Aaron Hicks, and I guess, you know, the center field job's no longer his. I guess it's going to be Bader's, because I guess Cashman apparently said that he can fight for the spot in left field next year. So it looks like Hicks, you know, unless he can win that left fielding, you know, spot, doesn't really have a spot in the lineup. Yeah,
especially if they sign Benintendi, and like I'm sure, like next week. Not that I'm sure anything, but I mean they got the winter meetings come. I think the Yankees are going to try to, move Hicks and Donaldson.
Yeah, because with Donaldson gone, I mean you could put LeMahieu at third. You can bring the young kid up at Peraza. You could put him at second, or just put him at short and have Falefa come off the bench. They're only paying him $6 million this year, so they're not paying him much. You could bring the young kids up and have them play in the infield.
Because I just think Donaldson can't hit the fastball anymore, and he had an awful postseason. He's still a Gold Glove fielder, but you can't have a guy like that in the middle of the lineup. You just can't have. I
mean, every time he came up with a big spot, he was a strikeout. I think he had one big hit, and that was that walk-off grand slam. But other than that, I mean, every time he came up, he just, you're right, he couldn't hit the fastball.
Yeah, I mean, in the second half of the season, when the Yankees, were playing lousy there for like 50-some games, and when Stanton was hurt, and a couple of guys were hurt, he didn't step up.
No. I mean, he batted .222 on the year, and he only hit 15 home runs, and struck out over almost 150 times.
Yeah, and last year with Minnesota, he had like 23 homers and 76 RBIs, and then he comes to the Yankees, and Yankee Stadium's home run friendly, and he goes to 23 to 15 homers. I mean, what's going to happen next year?
Yeah, I mean, he was not the guy that you're used to seeing. I mean, Yankees, it could be interesting how they look next year. I mean, if they do end up moving Torres, and if they can move Donaldson and Hicks, you could have a different looking team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Finally giving the kids a shot, or if they pull off a big trade. If Otani's available, they might give up some of the kids, which I think they should do. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. And Chapman, he's going to be gone. Our bullpen's going to be interesting, I guess. I mean, I don't know who your closer would be next year. I mean, do you make it someone like Michael King, or I mean, who do you think the Yankees will have closing?
Well, I think right now it's right up in the air. I mean, you have Clay Holmes, but how long has he done it? He's done it for half a season. They might go out and get somebody who's a veteran and, it's used to being a closer.
Yeah.
Because right now you have a bullpen by committee, and really when you do that, you don't have a bullpen over a long, stretch of the season.
Yeah, I do expect the Yankees to make a couple of trades this off season. Especially with the pitching staff. Because if you're not going to bring Tyone back, then you're either going to have to sign someone. And I don't think there's really that many, middle of the range pitchers out there. I mean, there's, guys like Jacob deGrom, Justin Verlander, but they're too expensive to sign.
Well, I think with Tyone, they can get him like the same way they got a Rizzo. They have. I think they got the right of refusal. They can just offer him, a contract, and he'll either take it or leave it. So they might be able to do that for a year or so.
Yeah, and is Zach Britton still under contract for one more year? Or is he now a free agent as well? I forget.
I'm just guessing. I think he's still under contract.
Okay, yeah, I knew he had either one more year or his contract was up. So I think he might be one more year left.
But he's an excellent reliever. But they rushed. He rushed back last year. He wasn't ready when he came up, and when you come back from that surgery, it usually takes at least half a season to get your bearing.
As Severino, I expect to be, a lot better next year. And I forgot about Frankie Montas. he wasn't much of a factor towards the end of the season, or really the second half when we acquired him. It'll be interesting to see what he's like.
Yeah, I know he was a little. I think he was a little banged up when the Yankees got him, and when the Yankees got him, they were all excited because he was one of the top, pitchers that they could have acquired, and he come over from the A's, and he was just awful. And he had a career-winning, he pitched well against the Astros, but he really was a non-factor when the Yankees got him.
Yeah, no. See, he was 1-3 with the Yankees with a 6.35 ERA. So he didn't have that great of a start with the Yankees.
No.
Yeah. And I keep Domingo Germán's a guy I feel like they really got to give a good look at because I think he's a quality starter given the opportunity. Well,
he'll be in camp with them, and he'll start the season with them instead of this year. He come in halfway through the season, and I think now, with all this stuff over, the guys will be able to get a regular off season, and they know they're going to come into camp, and you don't have to worry about the COVID and all this, and so I think this is the first off season, and spring training will actually be like a normal spring training. Yeah,
and the huge thing is with no shift next season, I mean, guys who Rizzo, who batted like 220 something this year, he's going to be batting upwards of 260, 270 again. I think we're going to see the offenses for the whole league come around. It's going to help out a lot of players not having that shift played all the time.
Yeah, they should have got rid of it this year. I mean, that just that takes so much from the game, and hopefully we'll see some more we'll see some more in the field play instead of just guys going for home.
Yeah, because the game, it got boring. I mean, it was hard to watch because either they're trying to hit home runs because it's easier to hit a home run than try to hit one to the opposite field. So either you saw guys walking, striking out, or hitting occasional home run. It'd be nice to get back to seeing great defensive plays and guys legging out a triple. It'd be nice to see baseball again.
Yeah, the way it is now, a lot of times there's a lot of dead time.
Yeah.
With all the strikeout, and there's just there's too much time when nothing's going on.
Yeah, I tell you, it'd be nice. And the extra inning rules, that changing too? Is it going back? Do you know if it's going back to the regular rule, or are they going to still have a man on second base to start extra innings?
No, I think they're going to keep the man on second.
Oh, I hate that. Yeah, at least they don't do it for the postseason.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I mean, if they wanted to shorten the games, okay, maybe instead of the 9th inning, you do it in the 12th or 13th inning.
Yeah. But
still, I mean, that takes something away.
Yeah, and also, I think I've mentioned this before. I was watching an old Yankees game from the 70s, and Ron Guidry was pitching. Once he threw the pitch, the catcher had threw it back to him, and within 6 seconds, he was already throwing his next pitch. I think they got to speed up the pitcher and and the hitters in the batter's box. I think that right there drags out a game because they take forever sometimes.
Yeah, and it's harder to field behind a guy who, he gets the ball back and he messes with his cap and he steps off the mound and he fidgets out there. And so I know they're going to have a time clock. They used it last year in the minor leagues. And I think, they're going to have it this year in the major leagues. They're going to try to get the game moving.
That'd be cool. Yeah. I don't think we're going to see any moves until Aaron Judge either resigns or signs elsewhere. I think if he signs elsewhere, you'll see the Yankees make a flurry of moves.
Yeah, I think, if they keep him, they'll still make some moves. But if he goes to another team, then you're gonna see a lot more going on. And starting next week, we got the winter trade meetings, and hopefully this Judge will sign either come to the Yankees or go somewhere else. Hopefully this will be taken care of in the next week or so.
Yeah, and like we were talking off air, I mean, if he resigns, they also have to make him the captain because I mean he's the unofficial captain of the Yankees as is. I mean he's the face of their team. He's the one that's always out front talking to the media. So if he does come back, he really should be the captain.
Oh yeah, and I mean he's just a class act. And you remember during the Astros series when he hit that long fly ball to right field.
Yeah.
And they, a lot of the Yankees were saying, well, if the roof was if the roof was closed, the ball wouldn't have went out, and Tucker made that nice catch in the outfield. And Judge didn't use that. He says, look, when I hit it, I knew it wasn't going out.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember, from the time he was, first came up, how shy he was in front of the camera. And now he's totally different. You can tell he's confident. He knows he's the leader. And he's much better now speaking with the media than he was when he first came up. I mean, he's matured so much since he's come up with the team.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, he's just, he's great with the fans. And, if you're a baseball fan, you don't love Aaron Judge, well, then you're the problem.
Yeah. And Hal Steinbrenner says they want him back, and they'll try to, match any offer made to him. I know the Giants have a ton of money to throw at him. It's just, I just like to see him re-sign soon because he is the heart and soul of that team. And I think if the Yankees lose him, then I think you'll see them, not go through a rebuild, but go young. I think you'll start seeing a lot of their young kids come up. Yeah.
And, who knows what, maybe they'll trade some of the young guys and bring in some free agents. But, if they don't re-sign Judge, Robert, they're going to lose so much money in marketing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You won't be happy.
All Rise, everything, all those T-shirts. Oh, man.
You won't be able to have the Ruth Maris and Judge T-shirts selling and the Maris and Judge T-shirts. I mean, with the Christmas holidays, if he signs in the next week or so, there's millions of dollars before Christmas.
Yeah, and I'm also curious to see what the Mets will do because I know that owner, he's not afraid to spend money and he wants to win. And so I'm curious to see what the Mets do across town. I don't know if they're going to re-sign DeGrom. I don't think DeGrom wants to be in New York. But I'm curious to see what the Mets do this offseason as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, DeGrom, we keep saying, he's a tremendous pitcher, but, he can't stay on the mound.
No. He's always hurt. When he does pitch, he's brilliant, but like you said, he can't stay healthy. He's one of those players that always has something nagging him.
Yeah, and he's getting up there in years.
Yeah, and even with or without Judge this year, Stanton, he needs to play a little bit better. Hopefully without the shift, he gets a couple more extra hits. But the power numbers, I like to see the power numbers return a little bit.
Well, it's always the thing with him. If he could stay on the field 15, 20 more games, he could have 90, 100 RBIs, 35, 40 homers. But he just can't stay on the field.
No, he hit 31 home runs, which is good for anyone. But this is a guy who one year hit 59 home runs, I think, with the Marlins when he won the MVP. He only played 110 games this year out of So, he needs to stay healthy, and I'd like to see those numbers, return. He only batted .211 too on the year, so he didn't have that great a year.
Yeah, and he's getting older, and then when you start having leg issues as you get older, they're not suddenly going to get better. So,
no. And DJ LeMayo, he had an off year this past year, and he still batted .261, but I expect him too to have a great year next year without the shift, because he's the guy who could spread the ball all over the field.
Yeah, he was up around 290, and then he hit that foul ball off his foot,
Yeah.
And then I think the last 25 games he played, he didn't hit well. I don't think he had an extra base hit.
Wow.
And, it's interesting, Robert. I mean, you get a team against, like, the Astros, who is a terrific team. I mean, they're just outstanding. But, you figure you have a guy like LeMayo at least come off the bench or at least DH,
right.
And hit a ball the opposite field or something. And
yeah. Yeah, because Boone even said if they needed him in case of an emergency, he was available. But they never used him as a pinch hitter once.
Yeah, then you had Matt Carpenter, who's a free agent. You had him in the lineup, and he had, face live pitching. I mean, I'm sure at the complex he faced live pitching, but it's not a game situation. And you put him out there, and really he was like helpless.
Yeah, I mean, he hadn't hit in like over 2 months, and then you throw him out there, and I mean, I'm sure he tried his best, but yeah, you could tell he was rusty. He was late enough. He struck out a lot because he hadn't seen game pitching in over 2 months.
Well, one of the things they said, the analytics department said, his swing was still the same as when he was hitting good, and the ball was coming off the bat the same, but it wasn't game situation. So, I mean, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Analytics are they are helpful, but, when you live and die by them, I mean, it drives you mad. And the Yankees seem to live and die by them.
Well, I think one of the things, they have too much information. Sometimes you can have too much information. And information's great, but you can have too much over it, then you overthink everything.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, and that's like Buck Showalter. He's a guy who he uses analytics as information. He doesn't live and die by it. And the Mets had a great year. Unfortunately, they lost the division at the end of the year because Atlanta was just playing out of their mind. But I'm glad that there's still a coach like Buck Showalter around. Yeah,
and even the Braves manager last year, he's old school when they won the World Series.
And same with Dusty Baker.
Go ahead, Robert. Sorry.
I was going to say Dusty Baker too. You knew the guys in that lineup knew where they were going to bat every day. And that's the other big thing is, knowing your role and knowing where you're at in the lineup, what you're everyone has a role, what they're expected to do. And when you're constantly changing the lineup, messing with the lineup every day, I mean, guys don't, develop a role or an understanding of what their job is at the plate.
Well, I think the way it is now, I mean, guys like Dusty Baker and Showalter, are once they're gone, that's a thing of the past. And, maybe the time has passed Joe Girardi, too. Who knows? Yeah,
I mean, look at the Phillies got rid of him, and then they ended up making the playoffs and almost, could have won the World Series. I was actually rooting for them in the World Series. I thought after they went up 2-1, I think it was 2-1, that they actually might have a shot to win it. Yeah, well, they had Rob Thompson. He was the old Yankee bench coach when they had Girardi. And the Phillies rely on analytics, but they still let the manager make the final decision. Yeah, and I tell you that Bryce Harper, he is a star. I mean, that guy, playing with a bad thumb and driving in runs, hitting home runs. I mean, he had a great postseason for him. And so did that other guy, that other lefty. I can't remember his name. Schwarber. He had a great postseason too for him. Yeah, they 87-win team, and they got to the series and they got the lead, and that's good for the Phillies. I mean, they haven't been in the playoffs since 2009 when the Yankees beat them in the series. So, Phillies have great fans, and it's good they spent all that money, and it finally paid off for them. Yeah. Getting back to the current Yankee team, we're not going to know much until after the Judd signing. I know we brought back Rizzo and Kiner-Falefa. I think that was expected, but I think we're going to find out what kind of team we have once Judge makes his decision. Yeah, right now everything's
everything's still up in the air.
Yeah. Yeah. Same time next week, Jack. Maybe some news will break.
Yeah,
maybe some football next week.
Yeah, I think Ralph wants us to do a Giants show, Football Giants. I mean, I don't follow the current team, but we can talk about Phil Simms and White Tittle and Homer Jones, and you can take care of the younger team. But I'm sure we can throw something together for half an hour, 40 minutes or so.
Oh yeah, I remember Phil Simms, Jeff Hostetler, and I remember the '90s with Kent Graham and Dave Brown, and then finally we got Eli Manning. But this current group of Giants, I know they're 7-4 in the year, and they have a chance to make the playoffs this year, and they finally got a really good coaching staff, but they're really not a good team. They're a really well coached team. They just lack a lot of talent on the team. But yeah, next week we'll talk some Giant football, and if there's any Yankee news, we'll talk about that as well.
Sounds good, Robert. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, likewise, Jack. All right, so next week?
Yep, sounds great.
Okay.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.